In the early summer of 2003, Harper's Ferry, West Virginia, was a place of lush green landscapes, rolling hills, and the gentle murmur of the Potomac and Shenandoah rivers. It was a town steeped in history, with its quaint old buildings and cobblestone streets, and it provided a perfect backdrop for the adventures of two brothers, Jesse and TJ. Jesse was a quiet, thoughtful 13-year-old with a mop of unruly red hair and a calm demeanor. His younger brother, TJ, was 11 years old, and though he was impulsive and energetic, he looked up to Jesse and often dragged him into various escapades. It was the last week of summer vacation, and the boys were determined to make the most of their remaining days of freedom. On a bright Tuesday morning, they rode their bikes to the old Harper's Ferry train station, a place they loved to explore. The station was no longer in use, but its majestic architecture and old tracks made it a perfect spot for their adventures. As they raced down the familiar path, TJ called back to his brother, "Come on, Jesse, I bet I can beat you to the station." Jesse pedaled at his own steady pace, watching TJ zoom ahead. By the time Jesse arrived, TJ was standing by the old ticket booth, his eyes wide with excitement. "Jesse, look at this!" TJ exclaimed, pointing to something shiny under a loose floorboard. Jesse hopped off his bike and walked over. "What is it?" TJ pried the floorboard up, revealing a small, rusty metal box. "I don't know, but it looks old. Maybe it's a treasure." They both knelt down and carefully opened the box. Inside, they found a weathered map, a compass, and a small notebook. The map had intricate drawings of the surrounding area, but with one notable difference. A large X marked a spot near the old armory ruins. "Whoa, this is just like a real treasure map," TJ said, his eyes sparkling with excitement. Jesse nodded, his curiosity piqued. "And we have to follow it. This could be the greatest adventure ever." After a quick lunch at home, the brothers packed a small backpack with snacks, water, a flashlight, and their dad's old Swiss Army knife, just in case. They set out on foot, using the map and compass to guide them. The trail led them through the historic streets of Harper's Ferry, past old buildings and plaques that told stories of the past. They walked for what felt like hours, crossing small streets and passing by curious tourists. The sun was high in the sky, casting shadows through the trees lining the paths. "Are we almost there?" Jesse asked, starting to feel a bit tired. TJ checked the map and the compass. "I think so. The X should be just up ahead." As they approached the ruins of the old armory, they saw an overgrown garden behind a tall wrought-iron fence. The gate was slightly ajar, and they carefully slipped through it. "This must be it," TJ whispered, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. They cautiously approached the center of the garden. The old, cracked fountain at the center of the garden had long dried up, and the stone benches were covered in moss. Near the base of the fountain, they saw an old chest, much larger than the one they had found earlier. "Let's open it," TJ said, his voice trembling with anticipation. With some effort, they managed to lift the heavy lid. Inside the chest, they found an assortment of old coins, some antique jewelry, and a leather-bound journal. "Wow, this stuff must be really old," Jesse said, picking up one of the coins. TJ opened the journal and began to read aloud. It belonged to a man named Thomas Jackson, who had lived in Harper's Ferry in the late 1800s. The journal detailed his adventures and the treasure he had hidden, hoping that one day it would be found by someone worthy. "Thomas Jackson must have been a real-life adventurer," TJ said, flipping through the pages. "And now we've found his treasure." As the boys marveled at their discovery, they heard a rustling sound outside the garden. Jesse quickly closed the chest, and they both crouched down, peeking through the ivy-covered gate. A group of 3 older kids, led by the town bully, Ross, were approaching the garden. Ross was known for causing trouble and picking on younger kids. "Great, it's Ross," Jesse whispered, his voice filled with worry. TJ frowned. "We can't let them take the treasure. We need to come up with a plan." Thinking quickly, TJ whispered instructions to Jesse. They would create a diversion and lead Ross and his friends away from the garden, then circle back to retrieve the treasure. TJ grabbed a small rock and threw it into the bushes on the opposite side of the garden. The noise startled Ross and his friends, and they turned in that direction. "Did you hear that?" Ross said, motioning for his friends to follow him. "Let's check it out."
As soon as they were out of sight, TJ and Jesse slipped out of the garden and ran back towards the train station. They followed a different path, using their knowledge of the area to navigate through the narrow alleys. After a few minutes, they stopped to catch their breath. "Do you think we lost them?" Jesse asked, looking around nervously. TJ nodded. "I think so. Let's give it a minute, and then we'll go back for the treasure." Once they were sure Ross and his friends were gone, TJ and Jesse made their way back to the garden. They carefully lifted the chest again and packed the journal, coins, and jewelry into their backpack. "Let's get out of here before they come back," TJ said, slinging the backpack over his shoulder. They retraced their steps through the historic streets, making their way back to the train station. By the time they reached their bikes, the sun was beginning to set, casting a golden glow over the landscape. "We did it, TJ," Jesse said, beaming with pride. "We found the treasure and escaped from Ross and his friends." TJ grinned. "Yeah, we sure did. This is a summer we'll never forget." The next morning, Jesse and TJ couldn't wait to tell their parents about their incredible adventure. They gathered around the kitchen table and carefully laid out their findings: the map, the compass, the journal, and the treasures. Their dad was particularly fascinated by the journal. "This is amazing, boys. Thomas Jackson was a well-known figure in Harper's Ferry's history. Finding his journal and treasures is a significant discovery." Their mom smiled warmly. "I'm so proud of you both. Not only did you find something valuable, but you also showed great teamwork and bravery." Jesse and TJ felt a swell of pride. Their parents decided to take the journal and treasures to the local museum, where they could be preserved and shared with the community. A few days later, the boys were invited to the museum for a special presentation. The curator, Mr. Elijah, praised their discovery and officially added the items to the museum's collection. "Thanks to Jesse and TJ, we now have a deeper understanding of Thomas Jackson's life and adventures," Mr. Elijah said, addressing a small crowd that had gathered for the occasion. "Their curiosity and determination are an inspiration to us all." As the summer came to an end and the school year began, Jesse and TJ often thought about their adventure. They had learned valuable lessons about courage, teamwork, and the importance of history. One crisp autumn afternoon, they returned to the train station, now a favorite spot for reflection and new ideas. "Do you think there are more treasures out there, TJ?" Jesse asked, skipping a stone across the tracks. TJ nodded, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "I'm sure there are. And who knows? Maybe one day we'll go on another adventure and discover something even more amazing." Jesse grinned. "I can't wait." As they sat by the old station, planning their next adventure, they knew that no matter what the future held, they would always be ready for the next great discovery.